Pro controllers. They are a huge part of my overall gaming experience, as even on PC and obviously on other consoles, I always end up playing with controllers, at the very least most of the time. In a lot of situations, I like to use a mouse and keyboard, as I end up doing with a lot of MMOs, for example, but that's only if I'm on PC. If I'm playing those same games on console, then I do have to depend on a pretty good controller. Even though there are actually quite a lot of options when it comes to pro controllers, there are just a few that do end up catching my attention. And they end up being from very reputable brands who a lot of people both hate and love. And I like to compare what I would consider to be the two best consumer grade pro controllers, a bit of an oxymoron, out on the market right now. And those are going to be the Razer Raiju Ultimate and the Xbox One Elite Series 2 controller. Both of these are amazing in PC gaming and they offer a ton of flexibility. Which one of these is actually superior? That's what this comparison is here for. So, which one is best for you, or which one is just the better controller overall? Let's dive in. This video is sponsored by Fifine, the makers of some of the best audio gear on a great budget, like the ones from their C1 models featuring a professional grade lavalier mic and the headset mics bundled together. Links to everything below. And to kick things off, I'd like to start off with a very brief introduction of both controllers, just so you can get to know them a little bit better. So the first controller of the night is just going to be the Razer Raiju Ultimate. So this is going to be the competitor on the PlayStation side. This is first and foremost a PS4 controller, and it's just going to be a replacement for your DualShock Pro controller. But this is just going to be Razer's implementation of what they believe would be the best pro controller on PS4. And what you get here are things like an amazing grip, a gigantic size as well, as they wanted to accommodate for a reasonably sized trackpad all the way on the face of it, and also mechanical buttons, which are fantastic. I really love this controller. You definitely get a ton of flexibility on other parts as well, like the remappable buttons around the back and the switch that's going to be behind it, so you can toggle it and switch between Bluetooth mode, Bluetooth on PS4, and Bluetooth on PC. And luckily, this will remember every setting for each configuration, which is pretty cool. I really like this controller, and it definitely comes at a steep premium. Even more of a premium than, let's say, the Xbox One controller. And this is also going to be a really amazing controller, and it's obviously going to be on the Xbox side of things, so you can only use this controller on the Xbox and on PC. However, all of my testing here is going to be done on PC, because I want to give them a leveled playing ground, if that makes any sense. So for the most part, this controller is just going to look like traditional Xbox One controller, but this one's actually quite different in composition. The build quality, way better. It's a lot heftier. It's got a couple of important features like USB-C, which means that you can use all of the cables that you already carry around with you, with this controller making it a godsend. I really like that. All of the buttons and the analog sticks feel really solid. In particular, the D-pad, as this one's actually easily my favorite D-pad of all time. I really like this controller. Microsoft has been making really cool things on their ends as well. And the first comparison is going to be based off of build quality of both controllers, how they perform in each category. I like to start off with the Razer Raiju Ultimate. This controller's build is really amazing, and it's got a really nice soft touch material that is honestly unique to this controller only. You will not find it anywhere else, at the very least, to my knowledge. It just feels insane. Now, the grip itself is very nicely textured around the back, and it's really nice to hold for long periods of time. And this controller is massive, but the ergonomics of it are really nice to hold for a very long period of time, even for someone with small hands like myself, as I got small hands, and it works just fine for me. I think it's really comfortable, and the reachability aspect is really good in this controller, except that at the very top here, it just might become a little bit tough to access the bumpers if you want to also be able to easily access around the top, as it's just a little bit weird reaching for both of them at the same time, and I would say that you would have to end up adjusting your grip depending on which one of these you want to use, but I personally find it pretty tough to actually reach around both of them at the same time. However, the overall build and comfort of this controller is always going to be a strong suit. Again, this is a premium controller, so it is designed with premium users in mind. Not to mention that this is a gorgeous controller, and when you turn it on and you have it paired, you're going to get an RGB strip lighting right around the trackpad that just looks absolutely amazing. love it. And when it comes to the Xbox One Elite 2 controller, this controller is also insanely comfortable, and it just offers a lot in the way of ease of use and comfort, even more so than Razer, even though that might be a bit subjective, and it just depends. You prefer to have your remappable keys, and to actually happen to really like them around the back, which is what Xbox has. What I mean is that it actually has all 4 around the back, which leaves a ton of space around the top and so forth. So already, when it comes to ease of use in that way, it's winning. And as for the build, this controller is also built insanely well. On the top surface, you're going to get very nice soft touch material, and it's not the same as Razer's, but this one's going to be a lot smoother, and it does feel a little bit more solid, as in Razer's end it might feel just a little bit more squishy. Actually, it just feels like it's a thicker layer overall. However, with this controller, it is going to feel really, really nice. And the grips itself is definitely going to be a little bit more solid on this guy, since the texturing around the back, it just seems to be a little rougher and a little grippier overall. And the triggers around the top are also going to be textured, which makes them a lot more comfy to reach around and get to them. So I really like that as well. And the grip portion actually expands all the way around it. You're going to feel the texturized material not only on your palm, but also on your fingers, as it's going to cover the entire grip from front to back, which I think is really cool. On the Razer Raiju Ultimate, you only get the rear texture, but either way, both of these controllers are really comfortable to use, and they're built really well. However, since I have to pick a winner here, I'd have to honestly give it to Xbox here. I think that this controller is just a little bit more comfortable than the Raiju Ultimate, as I think that both of these controllers are built insanely well and are really comfortable to play with, really. But in terms of comfort, to an extent in terms of build quality as well, I would give the win to the Xbox One Elite controller. The next contest is just going to be around how well they can connect to other devices, and both of them do struggle in some ways, and I'll get to that. The one that would have most connection issues here, I would say it's got to be the Xbox One controller, as unfortunately, and ironically for that matter, this controller doesn't actually have the best support when you use it on Windows, or even on Mac for that matter, but Windows is a bigger deal, obviously, as this is a Microsoft controller, and it's just supposed to be a better experience of using an Xbox controller on Windows overall. However, this one fails in a couple of ways. It'll connect pretty easily through Bluetooth and even wired. However, if you set this up on one device through Bluetooth, then if you want to play wired, you would have to connect this guy through Bluetooth first and then plug it in, and the only signal going through it would be power and not data. And that translates directly into the fact that customizing this controller can sometimes be a pain in the butt because of that. You can only customize this controller and the buttons if this controller is on wired mode. It will not work wirelessly, which means that if you connected it wirelessly, I have had to completely reset this controller and set it up again with the Xbox Accessories app, which is a horrendous way to go here. And in that matter, the Xbox One controller does struggle quite a bit. And in this case, Razer has them beaten here. They give you pretty consistent and reliable wireless performance both on PC and on PS4. This is possible because it has a switch on the back that allows you to toggle between different play modes like Bluetooth on PC, or just wired, or the PS4 or Bluetooth. It's just equipped to switch between modes and make the experience of connecting anywhere more seamless. And it just works, really. On the Xbox side, I haven't been so fortunate. When it comes to connectivity, the Razer Raiju wins here, and that is a big deal to me. And the next category is going to be on customization, and they both suck quite a bit on one department, and they also do well in another. So with the Razer Raiju, unfortunately, you can't customize this controller with Razer Synapse on PC. The only way that you can do this is on your phone, and ironically, it has to be in Bluetooth mode only. I'll get into that. Connecting this controller to my Android phone while getting it to stay on at the same time has been almost impossible. And the app always forgets this controller after one use, and I always have to end up re-registering this controller on that app, and it's just a huge pain in the ass. I haven't gotten back to it for a long time. I just customized the buttons to one or two profiles and just left it that way. I never want to go back to that app as it's just really bad. However, once you are in that app, it'll let you adjust the haptics on both sides of the controllers. It'll let you remap buttons on the back and buttons on the top to any of the face buttons, or even the bumpers and the triggers if I'm not mistaken. It'll even let you play around with the RGB lighting effects. Now, it's great in terms of functionality. However, if this application was just a part of Razer's Synapse, then it would be way easier to use, and I'm sure that it would be a lot more reliable to go in and make some changes. But this controller is really nasty in this regard, and the support, it just isn't there. Having to use a stupid Android app here, it's just ridiculous. And the Xbox One controller should be better in this regard, but I've been having a ton of really bad luck with this controller, and when it comes to just getting in there and customizing it. So the same gripes that I mentioned earlier still persist, and that I can't have this controller in both wired and wireless mode. I can't just use them interchangeably without having to reset this controller every single time. So mostly, I just like to play in wired mode anyway, because I just rather avoid having to reset my controller every single time that I want to go into the software and make any changes. I just really hate that. But once you're in, after you've updated Windows a million times, and the app finally decides to recognize the Xbox One controller properly, customizing this actually gets pretty okay. Now, there's no sort of RGB lighting here or anything like that. It's just going to be for mapping the rear buttons to any of the face buttons and the bumpers and the trigger buttons, and it works really well, and it's really simple. And here, for this controller, you actually get a total of 3 profiles versus the only 2, I believe, that you can get on the Razer Raiju Ultimate. So this guy here does give you a little bit more flexibility, and when it comes to customization in terms of hardware as well, you can swap out any of the sticks and the D-pad for the different options that are included in the box for each of these. And you do get a ton of options, as you can adjust the trigger stops around the back as well, which is really important. However, on the Xbox side, you do get one additional option for the trigger stops, even if it's not amazing. But either way, in terms of customization, and so we're coming back a little bit, even when it comes to software and hardware, the Xbox One controller was less of a pain in the ass, and it gives you even more options for customization. So I do have to appreciate that. So the winner in terms of customization is going to be the Xbox One Elite Series 2 controller. And the next category is going to be based off of your battery life, and both of these will last you a really long time. Even with the RGB lighting on the Razer Raiju Ultimate, I end up getting many hours of gameplay, and the same thing goes with the Xbox One Elite controller. I haven't really been able to tell too much of a difference between these two, to battery life really, so I put them at a tie. I might be wrong about this, and there might be a winner, but I haven't really noticed much of a difference, as I only play for, let's say, maybe 3-4 hours at a time, and when I'm done, I always like to leave my controllers charging, so I think it's a tie here. And now, and for the most important category, we're going to get into their gaming performance. In terms of gaming, which one of these is actually better? Well, this one is still a little bit tougher of a pick, but I think that there is one winner overall, even if it's just by a very slight margin. And so they both perform really well, and you definitely get a ton of customization with both of them that allows you to adjust the controllers for your particular playstyle in different games. And it's a lot of different options. They were both incredibly comfortable, they felt awesome, and they had a ton of grip and a ton of pep and a ton of heft, and the buttons felt really good on both, and their mappable buttons also came in handy quite a lot in a lot of the different games that I like to play, like fighting games and MMOs and that sort of thing. Even in shooters, even though I don't necessarily play those all that often, the Razer Raiju Ultimate does have better buttons overall than the Xbox controller, as the Razer Raiju has mechanical buttons, and just click your buttons overall. However, the sticks and the bumpers on the Xbox controller did feel considerably nicer, and the grip on that one was a little bit better, and their mappable buttons were easier to reach in my opinion. So I think that the Xbox One controller wins in this category for the majority of games. I would say that when it comes to MMOs in particular, the Razer Raiju does have an objective advantage, as it does have that really cool touchpad around the top. But overall, for the majority of games, the Xbox controller more efficient overall, even if it's just by a very small margin. I really like both controllers for gaming and just overall. I think that they're built great and they're just awesome. And in conclusion, again, I really like both of these controllers. I think that they're awesome. However, if you're just on PC and you need a winner, you need to choose between these two while keeping everything I said into consideration, then the winner here, and again, it's just going to be by a very small margin, will be the Xbox One Elite controller. If it was between these two, and you just have a PC, this is the one I would buy overall. It's just a little bit better in a couple of different ways. Like the sticks feel nicer, the D-pad is a little bit better, and the triggers are on the back are definitely easier to press, and the grip is just a little bit more solid too. So this controller is also around 70 or 80 bucks cheaper than the Razer Raiju Ultimate. And so overall, the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller is just a better value in my opinion. However, if you have a PS4 and a PC, then please, by all means, forget about the Xbox controller and just get the Razer Raiju Ultimate for your PS4 and your PC. So you're just gonna get a lot more out of it, honestly. But if you're on PC and have an Xbox, then the Xbox One controller is still going to be the obvious choice. However, again, if you only have a PC, I would just go for the Xbox One Elite Series 2 controller, if you're not happy with your mouse and keyboard already. Or maybe you just want a nice premium controller on the side. He's a winner. Highly recommend it. And I've already made 2 in-depth reviews on both controllers, and they're going to be linked in the description. I highly recommend that you do watch them if you wanted a more specific and deeper breakdown on each controller. I'll be leaving those linked. And if you're interested in purchasing either the Razer Raiju Ultimate or the Xbox One controller, then I'll be leaving affiliate links to Amazon in the description. If you use any of my links to make a purchase, then I do get a small commission, and that does help me run things a little bit more smoothly around here, so if you were to use those, I would appreciate that quite a bit. Until next time, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you all later. Enjoy.